What was it then about the Teddies Saga that said, okay, well, this has got to be a trilogy. I've got enough story because you had the whole thing more or less kind of planned. Do you plot meticulously? How much planning do you do ahead of time?
Yeah, the Teddy Saga, I knew for the age range, the amount of story that I wanted to tell was going to be a lot more than one book. It would, if not, the book would be far too long for the age range. So that just made it simple. It's like, okay, well, it's gonna need to be split up into um, 3 books. I think for that age range, 2 books is not unheard of, but unusual. The trilogy is more natural, and the story that I was envisioning did split nicely into 3 parts, as opposed to my young adult books, the Zebulon Finch duology, where that's 1,500 pages. That could have easily been at least 3 books, but it didn't split in a way that was organic for me. It split nicely in the middle. And so, although it's unusual just to have 2 books, I'm not going to force divisions in a story where they don't belong. So that was 2 books. It makes a lot of narrative sense once you understand the entire story that Teddy's would be 3 books. And yes, I do a lot of planning. I do a lot of pre-planning. For something like Teddy's that's shorter, I don't know. I couldn't tell you how long my outline is for that. But for something like Zebulon Finch, which again was a 1,500-page book, my outline alone was hundreds of pages. Like I go very, very deep with my outlining and my structuring, particularly when it's something historical that requires a lot of research and a lot of notes that refer me back to various texts that I have to glean information from. I have found that for me, doing a lot of planning up front just helps me in that larger struggle that I have where I want to get the stories out. And I don't feel like I have time to make a lot of seriously wrong turns. Like I don't want to write a story and end up going the wrong way with it and losing hundreds of pages. I want to do all that kind of work up front so that I can really concentrate on the writing part of it. And of course, that nothing's set in stone. Things change all the time as you write, and then I'll just redo the outline as needed.
Gotcha. So if you're starting with, like, say, They Threw Us Away, do you sit down? How long an outline do you actually compose for that? Are we talking 100 pages, incredibly detailed, 20 pages?
Well, I don't have it within hand's reach here. But it's a lot less than 100 and a lot more than 2. I would say the outline for something like They Threw Us Away might be 40 some pages, something like that. But these are, they're relatively dense outlines. They're, single space, pretty serious documents in and of themselves that I spend, weeks or months on.
So when you know from the start that you're going to write 3 books, is that how you pitch it initially to your agent and then sell it to make sure that's a done deal before you write it? Or do you write it with the confidence that, hey, I'm New York Times bestselling author Daniel Kraus, they're going to want the other 2 books?
No, particularly in a book like this or a series like this where volume 1 is going to leave you on a cliffhanger, and so is volume 2. It was definitely something that I wouldn't want to ever get myself in a position where I thought the story wasn't over and then be in a position where maybe the publisher doesn't want the second book, and then what do you do for all the people who read the first book? So I would never attempt that. I would in the past, and I'm sure in the future, if I want something to be a series, I'm going to sell it like that. I'm gonna require the full buy-in to the series before I write it. And part of that, especially with the Teddies Saga, which is actually I think They Threw Us Away as my 11th book, and it's actually one of my favorite plots. Once you understand all 3 books, it's one of my favorite. I love how the story comes together, and all the pieces will eventually come together at the end of book 3 in ways that I think will surprise people. So yeah, I mean, that's something I need to plot out carefully in advance so that all the clues are planted.
So I desperately want that experience of having the whole story. How long am I going to have to wait? Do we have a time frame for when Teddies 2 and 3 are coming?
Yes. Yes. They're just going to come out 1 year apart from each other. So this September is Teddies 1, and then it'll be the next September and the next September.